Hey, Kita here. I just wanted to apologize about something before you watch the talk. So, everything I've said about Redux over the years, I just realized. I got you for a second, right? You were like, oh, come on, you know me better than that. Come on. This talk you're about to watch was recorded in February 2020. This year is just insane. What? Front-end developer to love, 19th of February 2020, Theater, Amsterdam. So I gave the talk, they recorded the talk, and shortly after they uploaded the recordings of the talk. Awesome, right? What can go wrong? What I didn't know is they managed to time travel back to 2007 and record this talk with the first iPhone ever invented. I mean, Steve Jobs would be proud. Also, they couldn't find someone to record it like in the Netherlands where the conference was happening, so they decided to hire someone from Portugal and record it from there with like 90-70 million zoom. And last but not least, they wanted to innovate a little bit, so instead of using a microphone, they decided to use a blood pressure monitor strapped to a potato. So when I saw the quality of the talk on YouTube, I immediately asked them to delete it because I didn't want people to be confused. Why does the video look like this? Am I a time traveler? Is it 2020? Is it 2007? What is even life? Is there a greater purpose? Is COVID real? Is it a hoax? Should I trust the World Health Organization or should I trust my third cousin who's barely a doctor and he's posting things on Facebook? I didn't want to confuse people, you know? So I probably won't have a chance to get another recording of this talk until COVID is over. I mean, if it's ever over. Because I kind of get people, you know, the list of things and rules that we have to follow can be like pretty exhausting. And it's kind of like overwhelming to remember, like rule number 1, just wear a mask. Rule number 2, don't wear your mask under your nose because we use the nose for breathing and it's not effective this way. I'll just put it over your nose. Rule number 3, no, actually it's just like two rules and I don't know why people don't follow. It's just people. Anyway, I couldn't re-record the talk, so I decided to upload it as it is. After the conference, people tweeted at me, hey, where's the video? Where's Kits' video? What happened to Kits' video? Hey, where's your talk? Facebook, where's the thingy? What happened? But I thought, they're gonna forget about it, like nobody cares. Somebody yesterday asked me what happened to the You're Not Facebook talk, and I'm like, people care about me, that's so nice. Thank you, person. You're the reason why I'm uploading this video. If any organizer of the conference is watching this, you know that I enjoyed collaborating with you. You're all great people, and why would I be mad at you for ruining the only recording that I have of a talk that a lot of people want, and I'll never have a chance to re-record it until 2037 or whenever this madness is over. Like, it's all good, no hard feelings, and we're totally chill, and I'm not even pissed off, like, at all. So you can watch the talk. If you liked it, I would appreciate it if you share it with your grandma, with your closest relatives that don't know anything about programming, and especially with your downstairs neighbor who's been driving you crazy with that drum set. It's time for payback. Enjoy. I'm gonna need you to do me a little favor. So if you can turn to the person to the right side. I know we're developers, we're a little bit awkward in interacting and talking to each other. But just try to turn to the person on the right side and just ask them one simple question. Do you work for Facebook? After everybody answers, on 3, you're gonna shout out the answer out loud. So just turn to the right, ask them, do you work for Facebook? All right, let's wait for it. So now on 3, we're gonna shout out yes or no. 1, 2, 3. No. So 99.9% of web developers don't work for Facebook. So why the fuck are most developers acting like they do? That's the problem that I'm trying to address in this talk. We'll see how it will go. My name is Kitze. I'm DKitze on Twitter. What I'm working on, we also did a workshop yesterday here with the conference, so I'm doing React workshops. But my main thing that I'm focused on is Sizzy, is the browser for developers. And I really want to do this just to torture myself, so I want to ask you, who is using Sizzy? 1, 2, 3. Okay, more than the last conference. We're getting better. 2 pieces of advice. Conferences are about networking. I've learned this after going to like 50 conferences. It's not about the talks. Like most of these talks, trust me, they were made on an airplane ride or a bus or a train, whatever. So at the end of the day, the most important part is just networking. So don't forget the buddy that you asked about whether they work for Facebook. And one advice for speakers is that I see that we're making this mistake of not doing a talk enough. So this is the second iteration of this talk. We can say V2. But I'm going to go up till like V70 of the talk.
until I retire the talk. And most speakers would just give a talk once and they're like, I cannot give it again. Like my previous talk was going for a year and a half, and there were rarely people in the audience who've seen it twice. So for speakers, just do the talk more times and it's gonna get better. So this is V2 and I really hope that it's gonna go better. However, I'm gonna ask you if you work with Vue or React, and I see there's most of the audience here is for Vue.js. So the talk might be a little bit harsh and we might not agree on everything, but that's the point of the talk, because I wanna create more discussion in the web community, and I want you, like, if you disagree with me on this, like, don't leave. You're like, oh, fuck him, I'm gonna go have lunch. Just come and chat, because I really want this, like, polarizing discussions, and I wanna move some things forward with this talk. So we're gonna have two types of truth. So one of them is gonna be like this: pineapple doesn't belong on pizza, right? Most of the audience is gonna be like, yeah, I agree, but there's some guy in the back, I like it, hey, I like it, you can't say that. So some of the truths are gonna be like that, because some people like that, but for some of them, unfortunately, we would have to agree, okay? This cannot, like, it cannot be. It cannot happen. So I showed it to some of the organizers, and they said, if someone agrees on this, feel free to just kick them out. No, I'm joking. If you like this, okay, it's fine. But you got the point. So we're gonna have different perspectives here. So, point number one, stop solving non-existent problems. So first of all, before I start going on with all of these slides, I was guilty of all of these things, and I still am, but I'm trying not to be. So as I'm giving this talk to you, I'm imagining another Kitze in the audience, and I'm also talking to him like, hey, Kitze, stop solving non-existent problems. So somebody reported that the landing page for CZ eats up a lot of memory if you leave it open for a long time, because I didn't use React Spring. I was a smartass, was doing some crazy animations and loops and so on. So if you leave it open for a long time, it eats up a lot of memory. So immediately when someone messaged me this, the ego in me, like the developer ego, is like, I have to fix this immediately. And I'm like, wait. How do people use a landing page? You open it for literally, like we developers, we're gonna work on it for months, making the perfect copy, perfect animations, blah, blah, blah. Someone opens it, literally scrolls it, zzz, pricing section. Fuck this, too expensive, that's it. So I was like, this is not a realistic problem. If I solve this, my ego would be solving this, but I'm not gonna solve anything ever. Next up, this is mostly for React developers. I don't know what's going on in the Vue world. I'm not very up to date, but usually there's this problem when you declare an inline function in the render method, immediately it's a problem. So I have to introduce a character here. I'm gonna call him the horsey. And we were all horsey once, I was horsey once, like, I don't know, it's a character that he was fine once upon a time, but the internet changed him a little bit. So all the time when someone mentions something, he's like, oh, well, I think this, I think that. So when you mention inline functions anywhere, in my workshops, basics workshop, advanced workshop, whatever it is, inline functions is this response. Well, aren't these inline functions going to be redeclared on every render? And then my answer is, yeah, they're going to be redeclared on every render. So, well, aren't they going to slow the app down? No, in like 99.9999, you're never going to notice that inline functions are there in the render method. But I read this blog post, it was someone from Facebook who benchmarked and so on, but you're not Facebook. Okay, so in your app, in 99% of the cases, you'll be fine. You're not Facebook. You're not going to prove that inline functions, redeclaring them, actually harm your app. What is the highest achievement for a developer? You might think that it's the senior title or some word or something or a lot of followers on Twitter and so on. No, this is the highest achievement for a developer. And I'm proud that this is my screenshot down here. It's from like 5 years ago when I released my first library, because I was listening I was listening everyone on the internet. Like whatever someone was saying, you have to have 100% test coverage. And I did it, posted a screenshot, put it right there in the GitHub repo, and I'm like, now what? Like, what does this mean? Like I waste so much time. I have like 3 stars, nobody's using the library anyway. So why did I write that many tests? Jesus Christ. Or we have the other one. This is like the highest achievement, but it doesn't mean, you know what it means? It means like when the kindergarten teacher gives you like a golden star on your forehead, and you're like, yay, I'm special. That's what it means. Otherwise, it means nothing, because no user ever said, I love that website because their Lighthouse score is 100%. It didn't include Lodash, so it's a nice website. Why do I hate that we're obsessed with this? Like we're obsessed with these numbers. Max Stoiber posted his portfolio, and he posted the scores for the portfolio. Everything was 100, great job. But the last one, the PWA, I don't know if it has a score, it's just false. It's not a PWA, whatever. And in the comments, people are like, haha, it's not a PWA. I'm like, motherfucker, when are you gonna use Max's portfolio as an app on your phone? Never. Why would you pin someone else's like landing page or portfolio? So it shouldn't have to be. And still people went in their replies and made him feel bad about it. Haha, it's not all 100%. It doesn't have to be always 100 for all of the scores. We have this one, the AirPods Pro website. I just checked the audit. I think they improved from the last time. But when they released the AirPods Pro website, everyone was discussing how did they achieve that. Like, it's crazy. With videos, animation, scrolling video, it's a pretty crazy presentational and cool website with tons of animations. And people immediately, developer ego, chasing the wrong things, are like, but it's not 100%, so it's not gonna work in some countries. Fucking headphones are 300 euros. So they know they know the target audience, they know who are they delivering to, they know that people will have like powerful computers and speedy connections, so why would they optimize? It doesn't make sense. Still, developers roasted them, try to roast them. Apple doesn't care, like they make money. So the advice here is look at your analytics every once in a while, because I hear teams saying things like this. We're optimizing everything for a 2G connection in an underground tunnel in Asia, and our app works 100% offline using service workers. Well, that's actually a great achievement, but have you actually looked at your analytics? Oh no, let us check the analytics. And then you see like everyone is somewhere. Like these fuckers have 5G connections on Verizon or whatever. Just serve them like a big bundle. They won't care, their phone will load it. So just look at the audience before you actually optimize for months for something that doesn't matter. Because this is what the users want, and this is what developers do. Like we're crafting this nice experience because we're thinking, oh, I know how to do things and it should be this way. And then the user is like, whatever, I'm gonna go straight through that. User is like, well, it would be great if introducing dark mode. I heard other developers are doing it, it's trendy, so introducing fuck the user request, we're gonna do dark mode. The ideal scenario, of course, would be something like this. User needs a feature, managers plan it, developers implement it, repeat. But the real scenario is this. I'm not gonna read it, I'm just gonna leave it here. Thought leaders, they're the fucking worst. Whatever that means, thought leader. This is more or less what happens in every software company. And we're just going through this and just reinventing things. Fuck the users, who cares? We, and I say we because the first example is gonna be me, we should stop taking pride in our over-engineered apps. When I released my first app, it was just a list of Google Assistant commands because I really needed that. It was a huge list, and I wouldn't have done it in just HTML and CSS. I still wanted to use a framework. However, in the About section of the page, which mostly non-technical people are gonna visit this page because it's just for lists that what can your Google Assistant do, I had this section. So I was so proud that this was built with React and Redux and all of these technologies. Good job, kids, you're a genius. And when I tweeted this out, when I tweeted this product app out, I was proud of it because it was my first public thing that I announced. I didn't describe what it does. I wrote a tweet introducing okgoo.io, built and in parentheses, built with React, Webpack, and so on and so forth. Somebody messaged me like, why are you didn't describe the product. You're just proud of what it was built with. And I think we're doing this all the time. We're not talking about what it is, what does it solve. We're like, it was built with Webpack 4 and service working. Nobody cares. Like the user didn't care, I was still too proud of that. Next up, I was using Redux. I had 3 state properties, I swear to God. 3 state properties, whether the sidebar is open, collapsed, and 3 more things. I used Redux. Why? Because everybody did. So I just listened to everyone on Twitter. I was like, I need Redux. I had 1 search field for searching the commands, and I used Redux form. I remember, I swear to God, I spent a week on connecting Redux form and Redux for 1 search field. And now when I think about it, I'm like, and I have no idea why. I just used that. Everyone was using it like for 3 state properties. I also used reselect. This is what people are doing on Twitter nowadays. Introducing my new blog, built with Gatsby themes, GraphQL, style components, Team UI, hosted on Netlify, blah, blah, blah. And then you ask them, did you write any blog posts? Nah. Constantly, I can go, you're not gonna have lunch if I go through all the examples that I have of over-engineering, but I'm gonna give you 1 more, because this is really a sad one. This is me, and me and my ex-roommates would actually be millionaires, and I wouldn't be talking to you here. I would be on some island, on my boat, and so on. But what we did, instead, we animated SVG lines for our form fields for our login form. I swear to God, like we won Startup Weekend like 7 years ago in Macedonia, that's where I'm from. And Macedonia and the Balkan region, I think no country in the Balkan region had a food delivery app. So we were like super innovative, and we won Startup Weekend with the app idea, food delivery. And everyone in Europe had it. But we still had the chance. They gave us offices, funding, like everything that we needed. But we were stuck in an apartment. We were developers, right? And we were like, how about for this login form, when the user types the password, we animate this line, and then if it's wrong, we do something else with the line, and then we animate, like we spend so much time on bullshit, and then when it actually came time like for talking to the investors, and they're like, do you have a plan for like employees, for motorcycles, we're gonna store them? We're like, nope, we wanna go back to CSS, fuck that. Fuck startups, that was too complex. So we were completely focused on another thing, and we screwed that up. So when I give you all of these examples about over-engineering, you suddenly get this like warm and fuzzy feeling. You're like, well, we're never over-engineering. We're always doing the right thing. So in my previous talk, it was pretty similar. The message was pretty similar, but people got the wrong message. Why? Because I was trying to say, deliver maximum value to the user, and what developers want to hear is never move on from the current tech stack that you use ever. It doesn't mean if you don't move on that you're delivering maximum value. If you know that there's something out there that can help you deliver more value, but because of some ego problem or something, I don't want to spend 2 more kilobytes, whatever, you don't move on to that, you're not delivering value to the user. So I want to flip the script just a little bit and go in another direction here. So point number 1, stop solving solved problems. So I'm going to talk a little bit specifically about React. So I don't know if these solutions apply in other frameworks and so on, but I think you have some similar examples. So what are solved problems? Problem number 1, fucking button. We still cannot agree. Like, if I ask who has a unique button component, most of the people, they're gonna raise their hand or they're gonna lie. So I'm not gonna go through that exercise. Like, if the entire web community cannot agree on a button API, it can be danger, primary, it can be red, yellow, or green, but everyone is like, nah, our buttons are special. Nah, our company does something better with buttons. We also have an outline. So we cannot agree on this. It's already solved. Use a library, accept it, move on. Problem 2, state management. It's already solved, kinda, ish, but it's solved, especially for React. The solution for state management is GraphQL. And I made an entire talk about this, so I'm not gonna dive deep. But the idea is, the problem with state management is you're storing all of your data from your REST API somewhere in your global store, and then you're trying to normalize it. As soon as you move to GraphQL, from REST to GraphQL, you don't have that problem anymore. And state management becomes like very, very simple. You don't want to hear it. I know some of you still are using Redux, but it's 2020 and you should move on from Redux already. He'd say, we don't trust you. You're repeating this since 2016, but we still don't trust you. All right, I'm going to give you the creator of Redux. So he wrote in 2016, you might not need Redux. How much louder can this guy be? And then in 2019, he wrote, reading some Redux example code, I have no idea what's going on in there. He wrote the thing. What's there left for the rest of us? Like, if he wrote the thing, have you ever went back to a Redux project? You're like, what the fuck, I want to quit. So, no, but like, I don't want to be too harsh. There's still 2 reasons to choose it in 2020. So the first one is if you want to feel smart about pushing a string into an array. Because when you gather in the kitchen and the backend developers are talking about, oh, we're doing like these 3 layers of caching and we're doing this stuff with the database and so on, you cannot just say, I moved the div by 3 pixels, right? You have to say something like, oh, we're using this reducer, profunctor, function, so on, with it, just to push a string into array, huh? How does that feel? You want to feel special. We want to feel special. And there's a second reason. If you're paid by the hour, then you can just write code for days. Yeah, so thank you. There still might be a reason for a like huge global store, but there's an easier way. I'm always going to ask this question at every talk. MobX, anyone? There's 2 people in the back. Yeah, MobX forever, but still, like the shift is not happening. And for all of my apps that need complex state management, I'm using MobX and I'm never looking back. But we're bringing back Horsey. When MobX is mutable and not pure enough, and that guy from Facebook said, but you're not Facebook. Okay, for your app, mutable is fine. You know what's the funniest thing? They released Redux Toolkit, which is a wrapper on top of Redux, and that one is using Immer, which is made by the guy who made MobX. So basically now, the recommended way to use Redux is mutable. So congratulations, you just lost around 4 years being stubborn. I know, it hurts. Problem 3, styling. I'm talking strictly about React apps. I have no idea if Vue in CSS in JS exists, so I'm talking about React. Teams are doing stuff like this. Sass with BAM, and then we chop it with PostCSS, modules. What are you doing? This exists. Like 2015, they released the first version. I think it was called Aphrodite or something. But we have Horsey. What about runtime performance? What about it? Like Disney Plus is using style components. They have 1 billion users. But your startup with like 4 users and 3 developers, no, you cannot handle it. Disney Plus can, but you cannot handle it, right? But we have this other side. Well, Facebook made their own CSS internal library, which means they wanted to avoid the runtime cost. And you already know the next slide, right? You know it. you're not Facebook. So the runtime cost, you're never gonna notice it. And then we go to the next point. But what about the 14 kilobytes I'm gonna add to my bundle? And this is a quote from Gandhi. I'm just quoting it here. So sometimes you have to like put them on a scale and be like, okay, we're gonna save months, so let's not try to reinvent styling again. I found this JS library that's like Tailwind for JavaScript. I think that was the tagline. And they said, it's 4 kilobytes, so you don't need a framework. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Some people might use it. I'm like, wait, how big is Preact? And then I go to the repo, and it's like 3 kilobytes. And it has the same API as React. So at this point, like, you don't need a framework. Like, it's 3 kilobytes. You can include tracking script and images, but 3 kilobytes? Seriously? They're never gonna change something. Because in most cases, like, we're saving this couple of kilobytes. It's just like Bill Gates picking up a penny and being like, oh, I'm richer now. It doesn't matter. And there's like this mantra, like, not mantra, like people are using this in their performance talk with not optimizing your CSS and runtime and this and that. You're losing millions of dollars. And someone in the front room is like, yeah, we're gonna remove this, we're gonna remove that. But I want to remind them, you don't have millions of dollars in order to lose them. So when you're starting with an app or you work in a smaller company or whatever, you're not going to lose millions of dollars by including style components. You'll be fine. Which leads me to my next point. Stop taking things too far. And what do I mean by this? First one. I already asked you, do you work for Facebook? You said no. If I ask you, do you work for Airbnb? Maybe there are going to be a couple of people. So if you're not Airbnb, why are you using their config? They probably have like 250 engineers. You're like 5. Why do you use it? If you don't know what is this, and hopefully if you haven't ever used this, like God bless you, you're amazing. This is like you type a semicolon and a SWAT team like enters your room. It's like, drop that. You cannot use a semicolon. It's like super strict, it's insane. I started this Saturday. I want to stay away from Twitter and Reddit and everything else during the week. And then I want to get informed about web development just once per week. That's my plan. I don't know if it's going to work. Already second week and it's not working already. So on Saturday, I started this on Twitch, like not a podcast, like a live Twitch cast, whatever you call it, where people join me in the chat, they send me their links, we browse Reddit, we browse Twitter, and we actually discuss what happened this week in web development. So the next episode is gonna be this Saturday, and in the first episode, it was fucking hilarious. Like all the links that I've seen, like the first one was this one. CO2 emissions on the web, and I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. And then I'm reading through it, and it's, your content site probably doesn't need JavaScript. Yes, it does. Yeah, it does. You probably don't need a CSS framework. I kind of do. I suck at design. Like, I need the thing. I need Bootstrap. You probably don't need a custom font, but it's going to look ugly. I need a custom font, kind of. And then so on and so forth. And then at the end, there was this sentence that said, I'm personally limiting myself to using 1 kilobyte of CSS per app in order, to improve the climate and so on. And then I open the second link, and it's this girl, how I recreated a Polaroid camera with CSS gradients only. So by the other guy's standards, she's literally killing the whales and the polar bears are extinct because of she made a Polaroid with CSS gradients. So that's what I mean when I say we're taking things literally too far. Just imagine limit yourself to 1 kilobyte. Like if I write 5 lines of grid, it's already 1 kilobyte. I don't know, I can go on. I can take time from your lunch. I already see that's red, my speaking time. Because there's a lot of these things that we shouldn't be using, but we're using them and so on. I'm not gonna dive into them. Some of them are, we don't even know sometimes. We just adopt them in our company, we don't even know why. Because it was cool, someone said so and so on. Micro, macro, services, workers, so on, smart, dumb component. Like, I'm gonna repeat the example from the previous talk with the service workers. Somebody used a service worker, I think it was from one of these conferences or something, and for no reason they used a service worker. And then they had a bug, they couldn't update the service worker, and then they had to buy a new domain for the conference, just because they couldn't update the old domain. And why did you use the service worker? I don't know, somebody said so on Twitter. So, to kind of finalize the last couple of slides, kids say, why are you so concerned? Like, what is your problem sitting here on stage and telling all of this? Trust me, I really wanted to make a technical talk. I wanted to make a talk about CZ, how we're building a browser, blah, blah, blah. But that's like super boring to me because I really like this discussion. So why am I concerned? Because we need to ship more and we need to ship faster. So what do I mean by we need to ship faster? This is the weirdest slide, and this is gonna be the weirdest analogy, but I heard it on a podcast. It's not my own original idea, and I love it. So when you're taking a lot of time to ship something, like you're running into the ground, you're making it perfect. Everything has to be like 100% Lighthouse audit, like everything has to be super perfect. It's gonna take months and months and months and months. You're optimizing something. It's like someone being pregnant for like 17 months. And then instead of like giving birth to a baby, you see a toddler and you're like, what the fuck, you weren't there? How did that toddler, like, no, that doesn't work like that. But if you see a baby, it's small, it's fragile, it's growing, then you see it growing, it's like, oh, cool. So I think we should take that approach. This was the weirdest analogy, right? I told it to someone, and it's like, no, don't use that at the conference. I still wanted to use it. So I think we need to like ship it fast, ship the product faster, as fast as you can, and then let it evolve and grow instead of just optimizing it for months. The second point, why am I talking about this, is for a brighter web dev future, because it's kind of dark and it's kind of light. Like when I think about the web dev future, I don't know what to think of, because I'm the author of this viral tweet that probably some of you argue with me. I don't read the replies. I read like 5 of the replies. I said, don't use a CLI, let's start building more UI things so we can make our life easier. And I'm not gonna go through all the comments and stuff. I just read one comment that made me legit depressed. He said, well, UI is temporary, but the terminal will be here forever. Like forever? Really, like forever? It's not gonna go in like 5, 10 years, forever? And that's like such a, you know why is that a sad thought? Because when you see all the other industries, or like what all the other industries are doing, you get like 3D animators and all of these people working in these crazy ideas, like this is absolutely crazy, and then we're stuck with that. Like 3 panels, the terminal on the side, 3 monitors, your coffee cup that says code and pizza all day, whatever, and we're just, no, but all of these can be made in a UI, but our special rectangles that we're moving back and forth, they cannot be automated in a UI. We're gonna have a job in the terminal forever. So I wanna see a brighter future where like drag and drop, bam, 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 implement animations, you're done with a page. Instead of, thank you, one person. I appreciate it. Everyone else is like, no, we're gonna keep writing. Because I started following a lot of game developers on Twitter just to get more sad every day when I'm moving a button by 3 pixels. And someone tweeted this out. They had like, they wrote this logic where you can draw islands in a river and the river goes around them. And I'm like, what the fuck? Because that day I was doing this. I was trying to get this rectangle to just get on top of this other rectangle. It's just fucking infuriating. So okay, how do we move on? How do we move on? I have to wrap up, like 7 more slides. We need to embrace innovation when we see it. Like when you see something like this is literally styled components, okay? You see it, you're like, ew, but cars didn't work like that for 1,000 years. Yeah, I know, but this is new now. And you're gonna see automakers building shit like this from now on. It's new, that's it, deal with it. Because otherwise it sounds like we're a bunch of candle makers. Like just imagine, you had a business who were building candles for like, I don't know, 100 years, and someone invents the electricity. And you're suddenly mad. We're like, but what do I do with my knowledge about candles? I don't fucking know. I can flip a light switch now. I don't know what do you do with the language, with the knowledge of candles. Like we have this problem. We cannot move on. Why? Because our ego is the worst. The worst. Like see all the other professions. I think developers were like skyrocket ego. It's crazy. We say things like, I'm not a Lodash user. Who says this? Like this is imprinted. Like this is your personality. Well, like we take our job, the code, everything, and this is our, I'm not a JavaScript user. Like why? This is like every time your coworker screws up in a pull request and you're like this, no, semicolons don't go there. You cannot use tabs. And this is every pull request ever. Just because of developer ego, right? I know more than my colleague, they know more than me, and we're going just back and forth. I'm gonna mention a word that's gonna make you anxious a little bit. Just notice this immediately. Just like, oh, seriously, this still thing exists? But why? You can use fetch and you can do this and so on. Like immediately people have an opinion on this, right? But if I say there's nothing wrong with it, people would argue, right? I'm gonna go have my burger for lunch and someone's gonna be like, you know that thing you said about Axios, I don't actually agree because you can use fetch. And in order to test this, even if no one approaches me, I tweeted this slide yesterday, just fishing for this response. Still that 4.4 kilobytes you don't need. Why? But I don't want to, like this entire talk seems like I'm blaming web developers too much, their behavior, our behavior on the internet, but I'm not blaming them because, I'm not blaming us because the internet like does ruin our ability to form opinions. We always listen to someone else. This is my last slide, I swear. I love this movie. It's an old movie, I loved it. Before I find out, I watched it like 5 times and it was my favorite movie. It's not my favorite movie anymore until I saw the IMDb rating. It was 5.5. I ain't no 5-star movie watcher. I'm watching movies that are above 8, right? So immediately the internet is like, whoop, you don't like this movie anymore. So the idea is to try to do this less with the libraries and the stacks and everything else that we're using. Otherwise, it's gonna be a very rough future. So before we summarize, you can find more about me. I'm TheKitze on Twitter. If you wanna argue with me, I'm up for that. I'm Kitze on YouTube. On Twitch, I'm TheKitze. This Saturday, we're gonna do the show thing again. And to summarize a couple of things, we, as web developers, should at least try to stop solving these non-existent problems, the solved problems, which are the worst, taking pride in over-engineering, let go of our ego. I was proud of that, it's lame, whatever. Not forget our body of the conference, and last but not least, what is gonna be the last slide? Exactly, you're not phased. Thank you very much, and have a good time at the conference. Thank you.